And in this video, I'm going to be going over some tips and tricks on what you can do to improve your time, and some of them don't even require you to add any additional effort. So let's dive into the video. Into the first tip, and that is pedaling harder. So first things first, let's go over the route details. Alpe Du Zwift is easily the second biggest climb on Zwift, with a distance of 7.6 miles or 12.2 kilometers and an elevation gain of 3,399 feet or 1,036 meters. It features an average gradient of 8.5% and it has a few extra perks to it, such as the Yeti and the spinning wheel at the top. So as I said earlier, there are 5 different ways that you can get to this climb, and there are 5 different routes that lead up to this climb. Some of them take longer than others, some of them end at the top, some of them don't, so I'm going to briefly go over that for you all. So the quickest way to get there is a road to sky, and that'll have around a 3-mile lead in it before you get to the climb, so that's a nice warm-up, and that'll probably give you enough warm-up to get ready for the climb. I wouldn't say that you probably need more than that, so that should be sufficient for most riders. Next is Tour of Fire and Ice. That is 15.8 miles, but there is a 1.7 mile lead in addition to that, so that's going to be around 17 or 18 miles, and that's going to be probably around 10 miles before you actually get to the climb, and that'll be more than enough warm up for most riders, depending on who you are and how you typically warm up. Next is Quatch Quest. That's going to be a much longer course at 46 kilometers or almost 29 miles. So you'll have around 20 miles of warm up before you get there, and it goes up a few climbs before you hit that. So there'll be a total elevation gain of 5,000 feet, which is quite a bit, and you probably won't be able to get a personal best when doing that course. So I wouldn't recommend that course for going for a PR. Next is Four Horsemen, a really daunting course on Zwift. 55 miles, almost 100 kilometers, and climbing over 2,000 meters of elevation gain. That I wouldn't recommend this if you are just looking to do the climb. This is more for those riders who are looking for a route badge that includes this climb. And finally, the Uber Pretzel. The Uber Pretzel is the second longest course in Zwift at over 120 kilometers and nearly 80 miles. There is a ton of climbing in this course, and it covers almost all the roads in Watopia, so definitely a bucket list ride there. Based off of the details that I presented earlier, it can already be said that pacing is really going to be important on this course, along with nutrition and staying cool and all that stuff that you've probably seen in other videos about this. However, there are some ways that you can gain some extra time without actually working harder, and the first one is through bike choice. After running a few tests, I've found that certain bikes can gain a couple minutes on this climb, which will really help riders go way faster. So the difference between riding the slowest bike up this climb and the fastest bike was around 10 minutes. So there definitely is tons of time to be gained just by your bike choice. So really looking at that Zwift Insider guide for the fastest climbing bikes is going to help you optimize your time on this climb. And that's really the first tip that I have for you all, is that you got to make sure that you have the best bike choice possible. Wheels and frame do matter, so be sure to check out the Zwift Insider guide for the fastest wheels up climbing and the fastest frames for climbing. The next tip that I have also does not involve any extra effort, and that is finding an event that has Alpe Du Zwift in it. And the reason why that is so important is because riding this climb solo is going to be a lot slower than riding it with a group in a race. And not only does it motivate you when you have riders in front of you and it has the name race in the title of your ride, but it also gives you an extra draft. And the difference between riding without draft and with draft is insanely different on Zwift and in real life. So even though it is a climb, using that draft is actually going to help you a ton, and that will save you another few minutes on top of the bike choice. So it really is important, if you are going for the fastest time possible, to find buddies to ride with, whether that's in an event or just with other friends. It's really important to have other riders to ride with, to not only push you but also to give you that draft. So below in the description, I have included a link to Zwift Hacks, which is a great resource for finding events that do have Alpe Du Zwift in it, so it will be all events that are on the Road to Sky course in the next 30 days. So be sure to check that out. And yeah, on to the next tip. Depending on whether or not you have completed this climb in the previous 90 days, this will be a bit helpful, and for those who haven't, this is probably not going to be as helpful, but it is still an important tip that I feel that I should give, and that is using the holo replay feature. The holo replay feature turns on for every segment that you go on in game, so that will turn on when you hit Alpe Du Zwift, and you can have it set to your personal best, or you can have it set to your best or your most recent effort in your past ride. So it is important to have that going, because that'll give you kind of a reference of how far ahead you are of your bot. So if it says that your best time is 60 minutes and you're trying to beat that time, you're going to want to stay ahead of your pacer bot. And if you're trying to beat it by 5 minutes, you want that gap to eventually grow to 5 minutes by the end of the climb. And if you have not completed Alpe Du Zwift, as I said earlier, this is probably not going to be as useful, but for those who are looking to achieve a personal best, this is definitely a handy feature. The next tip that I have is pacing, and this is more of a traditional one, but it is still important on this climb, I believe. Because it is a long climb, and for most riders it takes over an hour to complete. The best riders complete it in around 40 minutes, 38 minutes, and that is still quite a long time, and you should really know what you're up against and how you should tackle this climb. So come into this climb with a plan, and most riders plan to hold a steady pace, and you can do that by kind of looking at the side where it has each of your different segment times, and don't look at the times but more the power and the heart rate. Try to keep all those metrics steady so that you aren't just doing 300 watts on one of these segments and 100 watts on the other one. You want to make sure that that stays around a steady threshold pace that you feel like you can sustain for the rest of the climb. And then another top thing to know is that it's going to take you quite a while to complete this climb, and knowing just how long it is actually very helpful to kind of give you a reference for how long you should be expecting to suffer. So Zwift Insider has a nice article about the different Alpe Du Zwift times, but keep in mind that depending on how much you weigh, this could be inaccurate. So I found that as a lighter rider, the whole 3.2 watts per kilo gets you under 60 minutes. It does not work. And for a rider around my weight, around 40 kilograms, I'll need to do probably around 3.5 to 3.6. So it really is going to depend on your weight. And then to kind of give you a reference, 3.2 watts per kg for 60 minutes. If you are heavier than the stated weight on the article, I'm not quite sure what it is, but I'm pretty sure it's around 75 kilos, that you're going to want to target less than that if you are heavier. You won't need to do quite 3.2, but probably around 3 to 3.1, because the watts will be higher, and that still helps you go faster up the climbs on Zwift. And if you are a lighter rider, less than 75 kilograms, you'll probably have to do more than that 3.2 watts per kilogram. The next tip for this climb is to stay positive and think about what you are going to get out of this ride. And what I personally like to think about is that you have the chance to see the Yeti, which is very exclusive in Zwift, and probably 99% of Zwifters never see it in their Zwifting career, but some riders who are really focused and excited about this do. So really just keep an eye out for that, and take a moment to take in the scenery while you are climbing, because that kind of helps you take your mind off of how much power you're doing and how far off you are from your goal time. And really just stay positive, and don't let the thought that you still have 90% of the climb left to go get to you, because that will kind of just make you think that you're never going to get there, even though you are. So another thing to think about is that there is a spinning wheel at the top that will give you an unlock if you have not gotten the spinning wheel yet. The spinning wheel gives you the choice between a few different things, and that's KOM gloves, a laser bullet helmet, and the lightweight Mielstein wheels. Once you get each of those, you will get 250 XP for either the helmet or the gloves, but if you hit the wheel set, you'll get 1000 XP, and that's always fun to know because that's a lot of XP, and that likely will help you level up depending on what level you are on. That just about wraps it up for this video, and if you enjoyed this video or found it useful, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button. It really helps support the channel. And with that, thanks for watching and ride on. Be sure to leave your time below in the comments and how many times you completed Alpe Du Zwift.